Aloha and mele kalikimaka. Welcome to the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic Championship game from beautiful Honolulu, the island of Oahu, where it's the USC Trojans, the New Mexico State Aggies, in this championship tilt at the Stan Sheriff Center, along with Corey Alexander, Roxy Bernstein with you. And here's how the teams got to this championship game. USC came back to beat Middle Tennessee here on Saturday in one semifinal, and New Mexico State handed previously unbeaten Miami their first loss of the year. And for the Trojans, Corey, it's about the front court and a huge front line for Andy Enfield.
And when you look at the size, 6'10", 6'11", 6'11", across that back line, especially when they're in a zone, they are very disruptive on the defensive end. But Metsu and Boatwright combined 50 points versus Middle Tennessee. They are a very formidable combination, if you call them a 4 or 5, because all three guys are very versatile.
And for the Aggies, their point guard, A.J. Harris, is the spark that they need for Chris Jans to transfer from Ohio State.
And I believe he's probably played the best point guard game out of anyone in the Diamond Head Classic thus far on both ends of the floor, especially defensively.
USC wearing the cardinal, while the black for New Mexico State, the designated home team in this championship game, as the Trojans win the opening tip.
You know, I mentioned how well Harris has been playing, but of course he goes up against a tremendous challenge here in this championship game, having to defend Jordan McLaughlin, one of the best point guards in the country, especially operating a high-powered USC offense.
And McLaughlin recently tied a Pac-12 record with 19 assists in a game against UC Santa Barbara as the Trojans come up empty in their first possession. Jamario Jones has it stripped in the lane, got it back.
And you see that zone that we talked about from USC and the size along the backside. And people don't realize when you've got 6'10", 6'11", and 6'11" along that backside of the zone, it takes away so many opportunities that you think are open. But a great job by New Mexico State with the interior passing with those long wings extended.
Jamario Jones with the game's first points, the senior from Memphis, who's had a strong tournament in terms of at the key moments he's stepped up for the Aggies.
Yeah, his numbers don't show his impact as we see a turnover from USC. But Jamario Jones, his impact on the game has been tremendous. And part of the reason why he's had such a huge impact is because their star, Zach Lofton, really hasn't had strong numbers. You look at only 12.5 points per game, came in averaging over 19. His average has come down a bit. So that's where Jones and Harris have really stepped it up on the perimeter for the Aggies.
City and Deere along the sideline, and Deere may have taken a finger to the nose or the eye. Corner three, and that goes for A.J. Harris.
We talked about A.J. Harris, his ability to shoot the three, but more importantly to attack the rim has been key for the success of the Aggies.
The miss from Chimezi Metsu. Jamario Jones clears and pushes. Jones goes inside, draws a foul on Nick Rakocevic.
And a very smart play by Jamario Jones there, using his size, disadvantage from a size standpoint to get Rakocevic in the air.
So good start for Chris Jans and New Mexico State as the Aggies jumping on USC 2+ minutes in, and the Aggies heading to the lineup 5-zip. Early lead for New Mexico State in the championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. But for Andy Enfield and USC, this is typical because they've trailed. They've had miserable first halves over here that have had sensational second halves in each of their first two games.
Hey, it's L.A. You got some laid-back guys. I mean, at the end of the day, they take their time getting into the game. They come out a bit nonchalant at times, but they're going to turn it on. That's what the Trojans do.
The first 7 points now for New Mexico State. A little pressure here, as in the semis against Middle Tennessee, SC trailed by 9 with 17 minutes to play.
And you see the change in the lineup already for Andy Enfield, getting Matthews into the lineup. And now that front line is nowhere near as big as the start of the game for the Trojans.
Benny Boatwright from the perimeter sticks the long two.
It's almost not fair to have a guy at 6'10" that can do that.
And a foul going for the loose ball as Elijah Stewart went crashing into the front row. It's on City and Deer of New Mexico State.
You talk about Benny Boatwright and the ability to be able to handle the basketball. He's a classic stretch four. I mean, although he's 6'10", a classic stretch four, and uses his perimeter skill very well to complement Chimezie Metu in a formidable combination up front.
Here's Boatwright from the top. And the rebound, there are the Aggies, and it's Indir for New Mexico State.
Roxy, way back when in the Stone Ages when I played basketball, if you saw a 6'10" guy shooting threes at the top of the key, he normally was going to get in trouble.
Coach would yell at him.
But now it's just such a part of the game, and it's one of the reasons why this USA team, USC team is so formidable, because they have a number of guys that can do that.
Chimezie Metu has it spin out, cleared by New Mexico State. But USC was down 9 early in the second half against Middle Tennessee. Went on to shoot 68% in the second half. They won it by 5 without Jonah Matthews, who was out with an ankle injury, but he's back in this one. And there is Matthews stepping into a 3.
Don't you love it? When just right on cue, Matthews steps. He knew you were talking about it, Roxy. Right on cue, he said, well, Roxy's talking about me. I got to do something positive.
Well, he's the son of a coach, so he has that intangible built in. His dad, Phil Matthews, the former head coach at USF, the University of San Francisco.
The Dons.
The Dons.
You got to say the Dons.
Who've won national championships. Jonathan Wilkins for New Mexico State. And he's currently the head coach at Riverside Community College. And his older brother, Jordan Matthews, played for Gonzaga last year. That went to the national championship game after graduating Cal in 3 years. It was a grad transfer for the Zags last season, as Chimezie Metu with a dunk for the Trojans.
And a nice feed from Jordan McLaughlin to get Metu his 35th dunk of the season, where he has more than USC's opponents altogether at a dunk in every game this year, except for Akron. Did not get one in the Akron game.
Wilkins gets his own miss. Step back from Indir, left it short. And the rebound, Metu and USC.
And that's going to be important for USC, cleaning up the glass. New Mexico State is an awesome rebounding team, but when you're playing against this level of size, they've got to take care of their business. And speaking of taking care of business, Benny Boatwright knocking down the 3 ball.
First lead for the Trojans. Boatwright has 5 in the early going. And then in the first matchup for USC over here against Akron, they trailed by 9 late in the first half. Started the second half on a 20-5 run and shot 61% in the second half of that game.
And Roxy, one of the changes with Matthews coming into the lineup has been USC going to the man-to-man in comparison to the zone. And just like they got off to a slow start, they pick it up so quick. By the way, Chimezie Metu, oh yeah, he's a pro.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaii flies with us. Outrigger Hotels and Resorts. Escape Ordinary. And Gildan, your go-to brand for t-shirts and underwear.
10-9 USC leading New Mexico State championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. Mele Kalikimaka from Honolulu as Santa comes in via canoe over here in the islands. Yes. Hang loose, shotgun.
This is real.
Right.
This is real.
Along with former Virginia All-American NBA guard Corey Alexander, Roxy Bernstein with, and yes, that's Chunky the Pineapple back there, who has its own Twitter handle, by the way, at DHC Pineapple. But in this one, a slow start for USC, and they've gotten going.
They got going behind their front line. We talked about them in the open. When you think about Benny Boatwright, Chimezie Metu, both of these guys are tremendous basketball players, and they just happen to be 6'10" and 6'11" with tremendous size and skill, and a point guard that establishes those guys as the go-to and allows this USA offense to be such high octane. Over 80 points in their last 6 games for the Trojans, and they continue to operate very well on the offensive end of the floor.
And you alluded to the last 6 games for USC as Eli Chua in the game for New Mexico State. But the Trojans have been scorching offensively with 80 or more in each of those games as A.J. Harris missing the 3 and Nick Rakocevic clears for USC. But the last 6 games, they're averaging over 88 points per game on 51% from the floor as Rakocevic attacks for the Trojans.
You know, and he's often the forgotten man because you talk about so much of what Metu and Boatwright do, but Rakocevic is special as well. They had a game against Santa Clara where all 3 players actually had double-doubles. And we're not talking small double-doubles. We're talking 15-plus points and, of course, over 10 rebounds each of those games. All 3 of those guys in the game.
I did that game. I saw it. And they dominated the Broncos, especially up front in that ballgame, which you alluded to 3 different guys with the double-doubles. As Benny Boatwright inside, he has 7. And for USC, they're on a 14-2 run.
But I like that by Boatwright because he's had success already on the perimeter, but he doesn't forget about his size advantage and goes to the block for the easy bucket.
Now the Trojans back to that zone. Here's the lob. Keon Jones for New Mexico State. Here's Jamario Jones. And his runner's way off, loose, out of bounds off of Elijah Stewart. 6 to shoot for the Aggies.
And you see the screen and roll action on the slip. Rakocevic is not even setting the screen. Smart play there. And Jaquan Aaron recognizing where his defender was, signaling for the slip for the easy dunk.
Mexico State's got to get a shot off. Desperation 3 way off from Keon Jones. And I don't think Jones recognized the shot clock was winding down.
And Roxy, no disrespect to USC's backcourt because they have a very good backcourt and a strong playmaker in Jordan McLaughlin. And no disrespect to the front court of New Mexico State because their front court good. But this game will come down to the backcourt of New Mexico State versus the front court of USC because that's where these teams are dominant.
Nick Rakocevic the dunk, and New Mexico State needs a timeout as USC, after a slow start, has come roaring back. They've ripped off 11 straight and a 16-2 run, and they're up 7.
And Rakocevic getting an earful from Andy Enfield there because he hung around on the rim just a little too long after that dunk, almost risking a technical foul. But the nice feed to Rakocevic, who hanging around just a little too long on that one. Fortunate not to be able to pick up that technical foul, but a nice drop off by Elijah Stewart there as well.
'Tis the season for Bowl Mania. We've got 3 more for you the day after Christmas. That's tomorrow on Tuesday on ESPN 1:30 Eastern. Utah and West Virginia in the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl. Then at 5:15, Duke squares off against Northern Illinois in the Quick Lane Bowl. And at 9 Eastern, Kansas State battles USC's rival, UCLA, in the Cactus Bowl. All 3 games also available on the ESPN app. A couple of Pac-12 teams will be in action there. And a Pac-12 team in this championship game against New Mexico State out of the WAC.
And this Pac-12 team is starting to play very good basketball, rounding into the shape that everyone was expecting to see from them as a preseason number 10 in the country.
Out of bounds, last touch by USC.
But a lot of that has to do with injuries. USC already has 23 games missed so far this season due to injuries or suspension. And right now, as they continue to get healthy, not all the way healthy yet, Derek Thornton's still out, unable to play, but yet they start to get healthy. And Andy Enfield, I think, is pretty confident in his team. Once they get to Pac-12 conference play, they're going to be playing the way they need to be to compete for one of the best conferences in college basketball.
Jonah Matthews is coming back. He's been battling an ankle injury the last couple of weeks, and you alluded to Benny Boatwright and what he was dealing with. And Thornton, who was injured in practice in late November, they're hoping to have him back for their Pac-12 opener on Friday at home against Washington. And DeAnthony Melton, who's being held out because of the FBI investigation, has not played a minute for USC. And they don't know if at all if Melton will be back this year.
In all honesty, Roxy, at this point of the year, as you get close to conference play,
Elijah Stewart and 1.
We'll pick up on that conversation when we come back. But I can tell you right now, USC is playing with a tremendous amount of confidence as they hold a 9-point lead here in the championship game.
(18-9) USC has scored 11 straight. They've made their last 6 shots in the field on an 18-2 run after getting down 7-0 in this championship game against New Mexico State, but it's been a turbulent start to the year for Andy Enfield and USC. They got off on the floor to a good start, but then the struggles as of late, and the big cloud hanging up above is that FBI investigation. And DeAnthony Melton, who is still out, did not make the trip here to Honolulu with USC. And the latest from the Trojans is USC is working diligently to resolve the eligibility concerns regarding DeAnthony Melton, as USC is actively investigating new information recently received that would make DeAnthony ineligible for competition, including travel under NCAA rules. And he had been traveling with the Trojans up until this trip here to Hawaii.
And so what we were talking about before we went to timeout, Roxy, when you get to a certain point of the season, okay, USC opens up Pac-12 play on Friday. Now, when you think about that, if Melton is not available sooner than later, do you risk messing up the chemistry of this team, bringing him back in late January, early February, if he is deemed to be eligible to play, when you've got a guy like Matthews who's battled through injuries and finally gotten himself healthy to where he can come in and help your team? If Derek Thornton is able to come back and help your team, now you've already got a tremendous amount of perimeter players going out there helping you on a regular basis. Do you disrupt your chemistry by putting one of those guys on the bench to play Melton?
Travel called on USC and Benny Boatwright, but here's the season summary again. Corey alluded to it. They started off 4-0, ranked number 10 in the country, but have lost 4 of the last 8, but are starting to put it together here. And to me, though, when I look at DeAnthony Melton, Corey, the things he does on the floor, if he gets cleared and becomes eligible, to me, he's as valuable as any player that USC has. He could be, to me, the most valuable player because he does everything. He scores, he facilitates, and he's probably USC's best perimeter defender.
Okay, so my question to you then is, who do you not play when you bring him back in? Does Matthews now come out of the rotation? Does your backup point guard in Thornton, who once he's healthy, does he not come out? Because Jordan McLaughlin's going to play. Elijah Stewart is their best shooter. He needs to play. So, and when you're playing guys and they're only getting 15 to 20 minutes and compared to playing 25 to 30 where they've been, it does affect your chemistry. And now we're talking about young men. You get bickering, you get backbiting going on in your locker room. That could become detrimental.
Shaquan Aaron with the floater. He's had a good tournament after struggles early in the year. Jamario Jones misses at the rim. Jones trapped underneath, somehow got it up and in.
And I didn't mention Shaquan Aaron, who hit 2 huge threes in their game against Middle Tennessee.
The finger roll from Jonah Matthews.
Yeah, they have a lot of talent here. And again, I like Melton as a player. I'm not saying that he shouldn't come back, but I think once you get to a certain point, you already have a McDonald's All-American and Chuck O'Bannon Jr. who can't even get on the court. I mean, that's it. It's not a bad problem to have, but it still is a problem.
The tip coming in is Jamario Jones. He has 8 for New Mexico State. SC lead is 8. That's Andy Enfield's problem to figure out, and it is a nice problem to have if they do get DeAnthony Melton cleared. For me, there's no doubt. If he gets cleared, he sees the floor. He plays.
Well, I agree with you that he will play. I think he is a valuable asset, but is he that valuable to you risk the chemistry that has been built over the first 2 months of the season and that Coach Enfield is trying to establish with this team? And more importantly, if they're able to win the day and win this tournament, now you've got a winning formula with that group.
And last year, 26 wins for Andy Enfield and USC. He's improved on his win total each of his first 4 years. Now year 5 with the Trojans, who lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament to Baylor last year after winning a game in the first 4 against Providence, then beat SMU before losing to Baylor.
Andy Enfield, a very good coach, spent the majority of his early careers in the NBA before actually joining Leonard Hamilton at Florida State for 5 to 6 seasons there, and that's where I got to know Andy. And Andy's he's known as a shot doctor first.
Our colleague John Barry calls him Shot D.
Yeah, I mean, that was his thing. He was a guy that helped players, NBA players, become better shooters. And so when you see the progression of these players at USC and how they improve over their span, and it's an upperclassman team, you have to believe that Andy Enfield has a lot to do with that.
He was a Hall of Fame player at Johns Hopkins, over a 2,000-point scorer in his playing career. In fact, Andy Enfield set the all-division record for career free throw percentage in college basketball at 93%.
And none of that is the most impressive thing you said. You realize how smart you have to be to get into Johns Hopkins?
Cleaning it up, Jonah Matthews for USC. So after getting down 7-0, USC now up 10. Inside 9 minutes to go until halftime of this championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. And a foul going for the loose ball. It's on Eli Chua of New Mexico State.
I believe we're going to have
Chua and Metu need to be separated.
Well, Metu was walking away. Chua has something to say. He wasn't happy about it.
Well, Chua was called for the personal.
You see, and guys going hard after the basketball. Chua trying to tie it up.
That's Jordan Usher, the SC freshman, on the deck, hustling for the loose ball.
Metu looks as though he may have had something to say to Chua. He didn't like the way that Chua was attacking Usher once he had the basketball. You see the foul there, which is a very good call, but Metu not appreciating it, and Metu having words. Be interesting to see if the officials come back, because there was an official right on top of the play and pointed at Metu, showing that he was the one that they will be looking at, if anything, and as the officials now go over to see the monitor and to see if they'll come away here, if they'll come away with a technical foul or something on Metu, because if there wasn't anything that he did physically, if anything, Metu said something to Chua.
It looks like he did say something standing over Chua, who came back at Chimezie Metu.
But again, if you're going to call a technical foul, it needs to be called right there on the play. It's not something I don't think you can go back to the monitor and say, okay, now we're going to call a technical foul, because there's no way you can hear what he said.
And the only thing that they could have gone to the monitor is to see if there was a flagrant foul, or a contact technical could have been called if Metu had made contact with Chua because play had been stopped.
So I believe there's going to be a double technical on both those guys. So the foul will be on Chua, but then
so
there's a double
foul on Chua, then the double technical,
right.
One to Chua, which now gives him 2 fouls, and also one on Chimezie Metu, which is his first personal.
New Mexico State now going with some 2-2-1 pressure to see if they can find a way to neutralize the interior attack of USC, because right now USC is operating extremely well, and as they get into a zone defense, you have to always be wary that USC also has shooters, so they have guys that can make shots. But if you're the Trojans, don't just start settling for jump shots and not use those bigs you have on the inside.
New Mexico State wins over Davidson and number 6 Miami to get to this championship game. 11-2. Only losses for the Aggies at St. Mary's, and an upstart San Diego program is Jamario Jones missing a corner 3. The weak side rebound, Johnny McCants, the kick out. Lofton missing a 3. Jamario Jones missing a putback. And the rebound knocked around. Eli Chua gets the bucket.
And that is New Mexico State Aggies basketball. Whether they can make shots or not, who knows? They're not consistent there, but they are consistent on the glass, especially the offensive glass. 4 opportunities there to come away with 2 points.
And after the slow start, the Trojans, 10 of their last 13 from the field. Travel on Jonah Matthews.
And that is an anticipated call. Matthews actually did not travel, but it looked like he was about to. But USC is operating extremely well with an 8-point lead.
Eight-point lead for USC. Championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic in New Mexico State. They've been so scrappy this whole tournament.
And one of the top rebounding teams in the country. And, of course, when you have a guy like Jamario Jones who loves to attack the glass offensively, averaging a double-double on the season, over 10 rebounds. And Jones just gets his hands on so many basketballs. Even though he's not the guy that comes up with the points here, he's the one that made the play happen by continuing to stay active on the offensive glass.
And even though New Mexico State, Corey, is on their 3rd coach in 3 years, Marvin Menzies, who left after 9 successful years in Las Cruces to take the UNLV job. 1 year for Paul Weir, who left to take the New Mexico job, to the chagrin and ire of a lot of Aggie faithful. And now Chris Jansen, his first season But there's a culture that's been established, and it's not an accident that New Mexico State has won 6 of the last 8 automatic bids of the NCAA tournament from the WAC. And
that culture is established by the personnel, meaning the players that you go out and get. And one thing that you will say about everyone that's lacing it up for New Mexico State, these guys are tough. They might not be the biggest guys, they might not be the best shooters, but they are tough, and they're going to, forgive the terminology, out-tough many of their opponents every night out on the floor. And they've had a lot of talent come through their program as well. It's not just the toughness that's gotten them by, because guys like Pascal Siakam, who's in the NBA right now, they've gotten a lot of really good players to go to New Mexico State. And they have, but again, they don't have the talent that USC has. True. But when it comes to a game like this, one of the things that Andy Enfield is telling his team, guys, we're playing against a very tough team. We can't let them be tougher than us. Shot clock at 10. A.J. Harris short on the 3, cleaned up. Jamario Jones. Once again, it's almost broken record when you think about offensive rebounding and Jamario Jones. He just seems to always be in the right place at the right time. And by the way, he's 6'5". This guy's not 6'10". He's not a monster on the inside. He's 6'5". He just has a desire to go get the basketball. 7 to shoot. Boatwright, corner 3. And there is Zach Lofton pushing it for the Aggies. Stays with New Mexico State. But this is what New Mexico State does. They just hang around and beat you down until the game is even. This year, New Mexico State preseason poll pick 2nd in the WAC to Dan Marley's Grand Canyon squad. Last year, they finished 2nd in the league, but won the WAC tournament. To get the automatic bid, they lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to Baylor. Speaking of tough, Thunder Dan played against that guy a number of times. Foul on Jonah Matthews. He wasn't just a pretty boy. Well, I'm not going to call him pretty. That's not my style. But he definitely was tough and could shoot it from anywhere. I actually played against Thunder Dan 22 years ago today, Christmas Day, when he was in Phoenix. He got a lot more playing time and more shots than I did, though. I got to watch a lot more. Nice view. I got to watch a lot more than I got to participate. One more for Jamario Jones, only a 52% foul shooter, but he has 11 of the Aggies' 20 as Keon Jones comes back in. As New Mexico State, we've talked about it throughout the tournament, their struggles at the line. 62% as a team. It's gone up in this tournament, but they still rank 341st out of 351 teams in college basketball and free throw shooting. Well, Roxy, look where we are. It's 25 to 20. Now, we're talking about USC averaging over 82 points per game over their last 6. Benny Boatwright and 1. And a beautiful move by Boatwright to have the opportunity to put 3 more on the board. Definitely gets 2. And maybe 1 more. But go back to New Mexico State and how USC was operating on the offensive end of the floor as we see Benny Boatwright with a beautiful individual move there to get the bucket. But USC came out. They were stagnant for the first couple minutes. Andy Enfield calls a timeout, has a conversation with his guys, then their offense picks up. But then over the half, New Mexico State has just found a way to slow down that high-powered offense and not really let them get on track. A beautiful move with the three-point play there by Benny Boatwright, but Boatwright had to create that on his own. It was USC's offense early in the game. Elijah Stewart with the block. And Stewart, despite being a 6'5" guard and terrific three-point shooter, he's also 8th in USC history in block shots. When he gets away with a lot of that tremendous wingspan, but also you're talking about a young man that loves to play defense. He's known as a shooter. We talk about what he does on
Speaking of shooters.
Yeah, the defensive end, but great defender, but I tell you what, great offense beats good defense anytime, and that's what Zach Lofton just showed. First points for last year's SWAC Conference Player of the Year, the grad transfer from Texas Southern.
He's on his 5th school in 5 years. Started at Illinois State, was briefly at Minnesota, went to a junior college, Texas Southern, and now New Mexico State as Jamario Jones throws it off Elijah Stewart, and it's out of bounds to the Aggies. Bowl Mania rolls through on Wednesday. 3 more games on ESPN, 1:30 Eastern. Southern Miss squares off against Florida State. The Walk-Ons, Independence Bowl, then at 5:15, Iowa and Boston College in the New Era Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, old Big 12 rivals. Texas and Mizzou battle in the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl. All 3 games are available on the ESPN app. At some point, I'm going to put you on the spot for the college football playoff. We've been teasing it all week.
Please do. I'm
about
ready.
Your predictions and you telling us exactly what's going to happen.
What was my nickname again? There it is. I love it.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Orbit Gum. Time to shine. Orbit.
We're going to take you inside the play of the New Mexico State zone as we see Jamario Jones covering both ends of the floor and both sides of the zone as USC operates on the offensive end of the floor where they've been so good. And when you have a big like Chimezie Metu, he attracts so much attention. But you see Jones communicating in the back and is there to disrupt USC's play and, more importantly, gain possession by throwing it off of a USC player, gets it back for his team now with an opportunity for New Mexico State to come out and get a chance. And now they squandered it away on that possession, but yet they set up their defense once again. And you see the defense of this team and what they've been able to do this year. The toughness really shows from Coach Jans.
Jamario Jones already 11 points and 8 rebounds in this game. Leads all scorers. Benny Boatwright with 10 to pace USC. Chimezie Metu met at the rim by Johnny McCants.
Just another example of the toughness.
Transition 3, Zach Lofton.
And it turns into points on the other end of the floor. How many guys in college basketball, when you see Chimezie Metu at 6'11" and athletic coming to the basket, most guys would get out of his way and just let him dunk it. But that's not happening with New Mexico State. These guys are going to challenge everything at the rim, and it turns out not only to be a block, but a three-pointer on the other end of the floor.
Elijah Stewart misses the pull-up. Rebound number 9 for Jamario Jones.
Jones is looking at a double-double in the first half.
He had a triple-double, the 4th in New Mexico State history earlier this season against Eastern New Mexico. He had 10 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists in that game. Steal for Elijah Stewart. Shaquan Aaron.
But nothing giving right there. Transition opportunity for USC. New Mexico State gets back and builds their defense.
Jordan McLaughlin, a 3. First points for the senior.
And a great shot by Jordan McLaughlin, but New Mexico State actually got back and defended that well. But in the matchup, you can't lose McLaughlin, who's capable, of course, of knocking down the big 3.
And McLaughlin's okay with being the distributor, but that was an opportunistic shot where he was open.
Well, when he came to USC, he honestly was much more of a scorer. And he's developed into the playmaker, as Zach Lofton is now developing into the stud that we were expecting to see coming into this tournament.
That's his 3rd 3 in the last few minutes. Jamario Jones comes away with the loose ball.
And that's the 2nd time that McCants has disrupted a dunk.
Lofton gives New Mexico State the lead.
McCants has disrupted a dunk from Metu and has turned into a Lofton 3 on 2 possessions here in recent memory for New Mexico State.
Lofton heating up. Shaquan Aaron answers.
This is my type of basketball here, Roxy. This is fun.
This is fun.
You're getting it all. You're getting great defensive plays. You're getting guys stepping up, making big shots. A lot of talent on the floor, playing the game the right way.
You love to see this in a championship game.
You really do. Oftentimes at this point, and the day off yesterday, it can get sloppy. But now we have our first wedgie of the day.
That's our 3rd in this tournament.
3rd of the tournament.
Arrow stays with the Aggies.
Maybe it's you. Were you the kid getting wedgies when you were going to school? Zach Lofton.
I'm going to try to change the subject now.
Zach Lofton changes the subject for you. Knocking down 3 after 3 to get New Mexico State back within 2 in this game.
Here is Jamario Jones off the inbound.
I'm just
Final
saying,
minute of the first half.
I've never been in a scenario where there have been 3 wedgies all in the same venue.
And a steal for Metu.
I'm thinking it's you, Roxy.
And you might give me a 4th. Out of bounds to New Mexico State.
New Mexico State now with the possession and an opportunity to put points on the board here to see if they can take a tie ball game or even a lead into the locker room. 4.8 seconds difference between game clock and shot clock. But if you're the Aggies, you want to run this down and get a quality look against this zone.
Zach Lofton's hit 4 threes here in the last 5 minutes that have pulled New Mexico State within striking distance of USC after getting down by as many as 10. A.J. Harris, the floater, rattles in and we're tied. 3/4 court, McLaughlin almost went in to end the first half. But what a fun first 20 minutes in the championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. We're knotted at 34. Coming up, it's the Land Rover halftime reports of New Year's resolution, holiday gifts, highlights, and stats from the first half of a great championship game between USC and New Mexico State. It's the championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, and we have a tie ball game getting ready to start the second half. From Honolulu, the USC Trojans, the Aggies from New Mexico State. Aloha. How's it? Mele Kalikimaka along with Corey Alexander, Roxy Bernstein with you. And what a fun first half this was between two teams that are playing for a championship and with a lot on the line, and they're going at it like we'd expect them to.
They really were. We expected the big men to have a strong influence at the beginning of this game, especially from USC, and they did just that. Chimezie Metu with the dunk. Benny Boatwright with double figures, 10 points in the first half off of a beautiful individual move. And then Rakocevic with the finish at the rim. And USC came out with 18 points in the paint in the first half, dominating. But you have to think about what New Mexico State was able to do to get back into this game. The offensive rebounding, especially by Jamario Jones, who already has a double-double, 11 points and 10 rebounds in the first half. And then Zach Lofton got hot. 4 3-pointers for Lofton in the first half for his 12 points, which got New Mexico State right back into the ballgame.
And Zach Lofton heating up there late in the first half, going 4 of 5 for long range. And we talked about the size of USC's front court. Chimezie Metu had a rough first half.
He really did, coming off of a 27.9 rebound effort versus Middle Tennessee. Only 2 points on 1 for 6 shooting in this first half. Give New Mexico State's defense a lot of credit for honing in on the big man.
Trojans ball as we start the second half.
And the Trojans go back to the big lineup to start the second half, which they struggled
Tough
with.
Shot from Benny Boatwright.
And they struggled with this lineup to start the game off until the substitution to get Matthews in. But Benny Boatwright picks up on the second half the way he started off the first.
Second three for Boatwright, who flirted with the NBA before electing to go back to USC. Quick dart to the basket. A.J. Harris spins it in.
And that's another young man who we highlighted at the beginning of the game. And Harris, who we were expecting to have a much bigger performance, did have 7 points in the first half, but really did not have the impact and had 3 turnovers, which hurt his team on the offensive end of the floor.
Jordan McLaughlin lines up a 3 and it rattles in his second triple.
And back-to-back threes for USC to start the second half. Andy Enfield has to be happy with the way his team is shooting the ball, but I know he does not like the way Harris was able to get directly to the rim on their last defensive possession.
Jamario Jones inside.
He's fun to watch. You see a guy at 6'5", Not as though he's short by any means, but yet going up against 6'10", 6'11", and 6'11" on that back line, he doesn't care about the fact that those guys are 5 and 6 inches taller. He's playing just as big as anyone on the court.
Doesn't faze him at all. Elijah Stewart missing a corner three. And rebound Nick Rakocevic for the Trojans. And that'll be a jump ball. Arrow goes to New Mexico State.
Jamario Jones catching the ball inside the zone where you always got to be dangerous, and then makes a beautiful move to not finish over one, but two USC Trojans.
At the rim to Jonathan Wilkins.
Nice interior passing inside the zone. Whenever you play against a zone, especially with the size that USC has, you have to have capable big men in the middle, capable of making nice interior passes. And we saw a great one there from Jones to Wilkins.
Third on Wilkins. Benny Boatwright to the line.
And we just got an opportunity to see Jamario Jones operating for himself in the paint. And this time he's helping out his teammates as he's able to drop the dime over top to Jonathan Wilkins.
Boatwright 1 of 1 at the line. A junior from Mission Hills in Southern California, 70% foul shooter. Join Scott Van Pelt for the Christmas edition of SportsCenter after Raiders-Eagles. On ESPN, we'll have complete postgame coverage, plus a look at Nick Foles' playoff potential. Did Eagles fans really boo Santa Claus at Franklin Field in 1968? The story behind the legend, all that, and highlights from a great day of NBA matchups and hoops over here in Honolulu. SVP after Monday Night Football on ESPN and the ESPN app.
Do you really have to ask if Eagles fans booed anyone? Santa, they don't discriminate against Santa. Santa can get it too.
They just wanted to make him feel welcome in Philly.
Especially if he had anything to do with them not winning a game. Santa can definitely get booed at Eagles.
The floater. Kept alive, though, by the Aggies.
Another offensive rebound. 8-2 second chance point advantage for New Mexico State in the first half from the smaller team. And rebounding is really about will. How much do you want the basketball?
Zach Lofton gives the Aggies the lead.
And add to the second chance point total. And Zach Lofton now with 5 3-pointers in this game. All of his threes have come off of offensive rebounds or block shots turning into transition threes on the other end of the floor.
Off the deflection, Benny Boatwright underneath. And a foul, it's on Nick Rakocevic of USC going for the rebound, his second.
New Mexico State continuing to battle. They get an offensive rebound and then this time pull it out, work it around, and find Zach Lofton, who knocks down his 5th three. On the, I guess I have to call this afternoon, right?
It is afternoon here.
Yeah, it's afternoon here. For many on the East Coast watching, it's dark outside, so
it's
they
after 7 o'clock.
That would be considered evening, correct?
Last time I checked.
We'll call it after evening.
Spinning. Jamario Jones comes up empty. It's cleared by Benny Boatwright. Step back three, and Boatwright is feeling it. He's got 18.
I think I said in the first half that that's not fair, but I want to make sure everyone heard it. That's not fair. You kind of got a 6'10" that can make that move, and not only make the move, but knock down the three as well.
Going inside this time is Zach Lofton.
His first 2-point basket of the game.
5 threes by Lofton is already a championship game record for the Hawaiian Airlines. Diamond Head Classic is Sadi and Deer. Puts New Mexico State back on top. First points for Indeer. And a foul committed by New Mexico State. And it's on A.J. Harris, but this is a fun championship game in Honolulu.
The evolution of the game. 6'10", Benny Boatwright with the beautiful step back tray ball is just not there.
New Mexico State up to the championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. It's a show between Benny Boatwright and Zach Lofton right now.
And Boatwright, the big man, with a little bit of action on the inside, but does most of his damage on the outside. 3 3-pointers for him to go along with a number of nice moves around the basket. And on the other end of the floor, Zach Lofton has found his offense here in the Diamond Head Classic championship game. 5 3-pointers already for the leading scorer for New Mexico State, as his offense has propelled the Aggies to a 2-point lead.
Eli Chua has the assignment of Boatwright now. A little switch, and Boatwright on the move, missing a 3. And there's Jamario Jones, who defended the shot, then got to the glass for the rebound. 11 rebounds for Jones. And a block shot, the second for Elijah Stewart.
And you mentioned his ability to block shots, and Elijah Stewart covered a lot of ground to come up with the second one on the day. On the backside of that zone, he does a great job getting over to help, and then shows off that wingspan, covering up the 3 from Sidi Nadir.
Shot clock winding down. Jones for 3. And Benny Boatwright the rebound for the Trojans. Fade away by Boatwright, and he banked it in.
Tell you what, Benny Boatwright is just showing us a little bit of everything here today.
Zach Lofton with the layup.
I believe that Zach Lofton has taken on the personal challenge. He's watching Boatwright go out and make plays, and he's going to make one of his own. But I can tell you right now, it's going to be tough to match the performance that Benny Boatwright has had here for the Trojans to start off the second half. Another step back off glass, and it's good.
We flash back to the first installment of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic when USC won the inaugural event. Marcus Johnson hits a 3 as the Trojans beat UNLV 67-56 in the championship game. That was back in 2009 in the first Diamond Head Classic championship. MVP of the tournament was Mike Garrity, the point guard for the Trojans, who knocked off number 20 UNLV. So USC 5-0 all-time in this event, and that's what's at stake, the championship in the 2017 edition of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, and a great matchup between New Mexico State clinging to a 2-point lead on USC. Jordan McLaughlin gets inside, and we're tied.
Nice play by McLaughlin, really just probing, and found himself open underneath the basket. USC back into the zone defense, and the infield has switched it back and forth between man and zone, but regardless, Zach Lofton has been successful versus either one. Now 6 3-pointers.
22 for Lofton, who has scored 20 or more in 4 of the last 6 for the Aggies, and in 8 of the 14 games this year has already twice been the WAC Player of the Week. It's the swat from A.J. Harris, and run down by Eli Chua. Sidi Nadir, 3. Six-point lead for the Aggies.
On 2 back-to-back 3-pointers, and a great play by Lofton, being unselfish. Although he's gotten it going, he didn't take the heat check, found his teammate.
Tough shot in the corner from Elijah Stewart. Nick Rakocevic rebounds for USC. Barrels his way inside, and a foul against New Mexico State.
New Mexico State has done a tremendous job of turning defense into offense. A.J. Harris with the big block over Jordan McLaughlin, and then chasing the basketball down. Instead of taking a bad shot, Zach Lofton finds Sidney Nadir for the three. And the Aggie bench, as well as the faithful that have traveled to Paradise to watch their team on Christmas Day, enjoying this performance.
Second foul on Jamario Jones. Nick Rakocevic at the line. There's some of the Aggie fans sitting behind the bench. Jamario Jones getting a much-deserved breather. And a well-earned breather as Rakocevic makes both free throws. 'Tis the season for Bowl Mania. We've got 3 more for you coming up on Tuesday on ESPN 1:30 Eastern, Utah and West Virginia, the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl. 5:15 Duke in Northern Illinois, the Quick Lane Bowl. Then at 9, Kansas State, UCLA in the Cactus Bowl. All 3 games are available on the ESPN app.
Once you said Zaxby's, I didn't hear anything else.
You were just starting to.
Oh, man. You West Coast guy. You know anything about Zaxby's?
I know about Zaxby's.
You know about Zaxby's? My car automatically just goes to the Zaxby's whenever I'm driving. Just kind of weird. So I'm not even driving at that point. It's like it's got, something just takes over.
A kick stays with USC. Jordan Usher in for the Trojans. Here comes Sean Buchanan for New Mexico State. Jordan McLaughlin stepping back, missing the 3, and there's Eli Chua clearing it for the Aggies.
And McLaughlin's really started to become more aggressive on the offensive end of the floor over the last few possessions. But when you look at this USC this team, games that he scored big points, they haven't really played well. He had a big game against Princeton where they lost. They need for those big guys to be able to step up, and not that he shouldn't take shots, but he's got to make sure he's keeping those bigs involved.
Wow, City and Dare. Top 10?
It's close. It's Christmas Day, and we got a lot of NBA action, but that one is going to get consideration. City and Dare elevating around the big fella.
And a kick that stays with USC. But New Mexico State up 6 on USC in the championship game. And the City and Deer showing up.
The move so nice, we had to see it twice. City and Deer along the baseline. Beautiful dump off by Buchanan. Going around the big fella for the highlight.
(57-51) New Mexico State leading USC championship game, and Zach Lofton heating up with the championship on the line.
Well, it took a couple games, but Zach Lofton has found his shooting touch here in the island, and the beneficiary of a number of great plays by his teammates that have allowed him to find good looks along the perimeter. Came to the island averaging over 19.5 points per game, has struggled shooting the ball until the championship game, but they say big players step up in big moments. Zach Lofton getting it done here today.
6 of 7 from 3. Also, Jamario Jones closing in on another triple-double. 13 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists as Eli Chua with the takeaway.
He wants one. You can tell by the way he's moving with the basketball. He wants to get another shot off. Shaquan Aaron doing a very good job there defensively. And I'm sure Andy Enfield challenging Shaquan Aaron. Somebody's got to slow Zach Lofton down.
He misses. Chimezie Metu elevates for the rebound.
We've talked all tournament long about Lofton having to step up, but now I believe it's Chimezie Metu who has to get involved, especially on the offensive end for USC. If they're going to be able to win their second Diamond Head Classic championship, Metu is going to have a strong final 10.5 minutes.
And the rejection stays with USC.
Nothing worse than falling down after you got your shot blocked. It's happened to me before, and you can't stand it. You got to sit on the ground and watch someone toss your basketball into the stands. That's no fun if you're Benny Boatwright. And I say this from experience. I think I watched the Dikembe Mutombo throw my shot about 3 feet.
No, not today.
I didn't see that part. I'm sure he did it, but I did not see the finger waving. I was looking at the ball, which looked like it was floating off into the atmosphere.
SC has not made a field goal in about 4 minutes. Missed their last 5 shots.
Nope.
And that'll be a goaltend.
I was about to say. And again, honestly, I believe the officials were caught up in wondering, because it was a floater, if that was a pass like an alley-oop to Metu, or if that were a shot.
Because Metu was closing in.
Yeah, he was going. I mean, Metu never jumped. But again, that could have very well have been an alley-oop. See, that's where the floater messes up the game. I've got a number of reasons to talk about the floater.
The pull-up by Zach Lofton.
He's got it going. We talked to their staff before the tournament, asked him, is he a shooter or is he more of a scorer? And they simply told us he's both.
Yes.
And you're seeing both of them right now.
Jordan McLaughlin short on the 3. And here comes Sean Buchanan for the Aggies. Ten to shoot. Jamario Jones. And the rebound, Jordan Usher for USC. USC trailing. They've trailed in the second half of each of their first 2 games here and came back to win both. They've been the cardiac kids the last couple of years. Stays with the Trojans.
Jordan McLaughlin coming off of a screen. He and Metu involved in the screen and roll. And this is a play where you would see an alley-oop to Metu. And it's hard to distinguish his intent there, whether that was a floater or a shot. But he gets the basket for it, which I'm sure McLaughlin's not upset about.
A foul on Johnny McCants will put Boatwright at the line. But the comebacks for USC. Last year, the Trojans led the country with 13 comebacks in games where they trailed by 10 or more points.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying that this is the situation they're used to being in. And then last year they won 15 games when trailing by at least 9.
But when they were down 5-0, you told me this is USC has them exactly where they want them. Because you know this team so well. And I agree with you, and I'm sure the players don't mind playing this way, but I can tell you who it does drive crazy.
Is that why Andy Enfield's hair's gotten a little bit grayer?
No, that's wisdom. I have gray. It's called wisdom. I keep explaining this to you all. I told you how smart Andy Enfield was.
Shot clock at 10. Jamario Jones, the lob to McCants. One-handed Johnny McCants. First points for the redshirt freshman.
And McCants has given New Mexico State great minutes off the bench. More so on the defensive end of the floor, but a beautiful finish there.
And a block on McCants, his second.
Jamario Jones again getting inside the paint, finding his teammates. But I believe that really wasn't a great pass, but a spectacular finish for McCants.
And Jamario Jones now 2 assists shy of a triple-double.
And Jamario Jones is one of those young men you just love. He just enjoys playing basketball with the black mouthpiece. He's actually smiling, ladies and gentlemen.
Boatwright for three.
Benny with a little body language coming back, too.
3-point game, 8 minutes to go in the championship of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. 26 now for Zach Lofton. Chimezie Metu, who's been quiet. That's a tough shot. And there is Lofton on the defensive glass for the Aggies. A.J. Harris. And over the back call on McCants, that's his third. Final 7-14 in this championship game. New Mexico State by 5.
And we've had a number of players get hot. Benny Boatwright knocking down a huge three for the Trojans. And on the other end of the floor is Zach Lofton. Step back. Anything you can do, I can do better.
Five-point lead for the Aggies. Championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. And Jamario Jones already with 1 triple-double this season is closing in on number 2.
And he's flirting with it, 2 assists short right now. But Jamario Jones is a young man, as you watch him play, he's not playing for the numbers. He's playing because he enjoys the game of basketball. We saw him flash a huge smile after a beautiful feed to McCants earlier in the game. And more importantly, a young man that goes out, he defends, he rebounds, he plays the game the right way for New Mexico State.
Interesting set for USC with McLaughlin playing off the ball and Nick Rakocevic called for a travel.
And you call it interesting because you're not used to seeing Rakocevic being the one that's having to make plays, and Andy Enfield doesn't like the result of what was called out of the timeout.
Zach Lofton against Shaquan Aaron, and a foul on USC. And it's on Aaron, his first.
You know, I'll give Zach Lofton credit because in the first 2 games here at the Diamond Head Classic, he really wasn't very aggressive. And for a guy that scores the way that he does, you would expect him to come in and force more shots, and he didn't do that. But you're getting to see now what he really does on a consistent basis.
70% foul shooter. Lofton now 27. A season high against Colorado State for the Aggies of 30, and a career high last season playing for Texas Southern, 35. Benny Boatwright from deep. He's tied a career high of 28. He had 28 earlier this season against North Dakota State.
And we have to remember that Benny Boatwright did not play in the 2 games prior to USC coming to the Diamond Head Classic. And then in the first game here, he was actually ejected for a flagrant foul at the end of the first half. So Benny Boatwright, in the 2 games that he has played, has really been special for the Trojans.
Here he is again. Too strong on the 3. A.J. Harris clears for New Mexico State. Long pass ahead for Jamario Jones. Shot clock at 5. Harris lost it going up, and a foul against the Trojans. It's on Benny Boatwright, his first.
Benny Boatwright operating on the offensive end of the floor. He and Jordan McLaughlin in the pick and roll, and got a little 3 goggles with only over 1 eye, though. Didn't put both the goggles on, just over 1 eye. You know, I probably need goggles on both eyes, actually. Oftentimes, hard time seeing things going on as you get a little older.
A.J. Harris is just a 53% foul shooter. His Boatwright is tied in career high with 28. Maybe if they were winning, he'd put up the double barrel.
You might be right on that one. Got to be up to put him over both eyes. Still need one to play defense coming back down the floor.
1 out of 2 for Harris. Lofton with 28 to lead New Mexico State. 13 for Jamario Jones. Boatwright 28 to pace USC. Jordan McLaughlin with 10. Elijah Stewart, corner 3.
And that's Jordan McLaughlin. He gets the credit for that play, attacking the paint and finding Elijah Stewart, who really has been quiet offensively in this game. These USC Trojans, they need Jordan McLaughlin to get guys the basketball. Not that scoring's not important for him, but he has to be the playmaker.
Off-balance runner by Jamario Jones. Boatwright clears for USC. Travel on Benny Boatwright.
Jordan McLaughlin attacking the paint, and the beautiful find cross court to Elijah Stewart for the 3. I talked to Jordan before the game. I had the opportunity to work with him at the Nike Basketball Academy this summer, and I asked him, I said, we didn't work on all that passing stuff. What are you doing out there? We worked on offensive and scoring. Maybe I got in his head a little bit too much, but now he's back to his winning ways.
Jamario Jones rattles out. Offensive rebound to put back Eli Chua. The hustle play is going the Aggies' way. Stripped by Chua. McLaughlin gets it back. Chimezie Metu is grabbed going up. And a couple of free throws for Metu, with New Mexico State leading this championship game by 4 over USC. 3:56 remaining.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Hawaiian Airlines. Hawaii flies with us. Outrigger Hotels and Resorts. Escape Ordinary. And Gildan. For t-shirts and underwear, every thread counts.
(68-64) New Mexico State leading USC. Championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Hit Classic.
Benny Boatwright has saved his best for last here in Honolulu. Continues to shoot the ball extremely well for USC. Knocking down a number of threes, but not only making all of his plays beyond the arc, attacking the rim as well.
He's got a career high tying 28 points. Zach Lofton has 28. You got to pick an MVP. Good luck with that.
Yeah, have fun with it. I can tell you what, if New Mexico State wins, it's neither one of the guys on this screen.
One more for Chimezie Metu. During the timeout, Jamario Jones was getting worked on behind the New Mexico State bench.
There goes my MVP, so I need you to get back on the court, Jamario.
Metu pulls USC within 2 as Jamario Jones 2 assists shy of a triple-double.
Of course, we talk MVP. It's over the entire tournament, not just a championship game. Boatwright and Lofton both have had great games. But Jamario Jones has had a great tournament and is flirting with a triple-double here in the championship game.
Goaltending on Metu, give the bucket to A.J. Harris. And even though the numbers won't be eye-popping for Jamario Jones in this tournament, but he's shown up at the biggest moments when New Mexico State has needed.
And not necessarily always on the offensive end of the floor as well. What he's done defensively, you got to think back to what he did guarding Peyton Aldridge in Game 1 versus Davidson. And then, of course, against Miami, the job he did on Bruce Brown. You know, so he has done it on both ends of the floor, but you got to talk about a young man that's averaging a double-double on the season. Had a double-double in the first half of this game, the championship game.
2 shots for Benny Boatwright. And the foul is on Johnny McCants, his 4th.
And you see how easily USC operates on their offensive end of the floor when Jones is not in the game. And just like we see it, Coach Jan sees it, which is the reason why, even though he may be dealing with a cramp or something going on in that left leg, Jamario Jones is coming back in the game. His team needs him for the final 3:07.
Career high 29 now for Benny Boatwright as Jamario Jones coming back. USC's perfect to the line. They're 11 of 11 in this game. And they've hit 10 of 20 from 3, yet they trail by 2.
Benny Boatwright has definitely put on an MVP performance. Had a strong semifinal game, but nothing compared to what he's done here on championship day.
And the 3rd different USC player to put up a 30-point game this year.
Well, that really just shows you the level of talent that Andy Enfield has on this team. You know, it's simply about these guys getting healthy and figuring out a chemistry and a rotation as to how they need to play.
Metu runs it down. Metu at 31 against UCSB. McLaughlin had 35 in their overtime win at Vanderbilt. And now Boatwright with 30 in the championship game here against the Aggies. Deflected by Eli Chua and a steal. He's had some big moments in this tournament.
He really has. He's given New Mexico State huge minutes, both offensively and defensively. Had me questioning whether or not Coach Dan should be starting him earlier in the tournament, but I can appreciate the way that Chua has handled his responsibility coming off the bench.
Eli Chua comes in over the top of Metu.
See, he knew we were talking about him, Roxy. He knew we were giving him love, so he had to go make a play. I can appreciate players respecting the commentators the way that they do and giving us great information.
Metu squares up and misses. Kept alive by Elijah Stewart, and Jordan McLaughlin banks it in.
That's about the easiest shot Jordan McLaughlin has gotten the entire game.
Back to a 2-point game. Approaching 90 seconds to go. Timeout, New Mexico State. 72-70. The Aggies have the lead, and what a putback by Eli Chua.
Eli Chua, who averaged close to 10 rebounds a game last year, flying, coming out of nowhere to tip that one in.
New Year's Day, we'll have the college football playoff semifinals on ESPN. Number 2 Oklahoma, number 3 Georgia kick things off at the Rose Bowl game at 5 Eastern. From Pasadena, then number 1 Clemson and number 4 Alabama, the Sugar Bowl from the Superdome in New Orleans. Both games also streaming live on the ESPN app. All right, Corey, let me hear it.
No, call me my real name.
Let me hear it, Nostra Corey.
Okay, here we go. This is the way this is going down, ladies and gentlemen. Get your pen and paper, write this down. Georgia will beat Oklahoma. Alabama, even though I'm an ACC guy, will beat Clemson. Alabama will beat Georgia. The teacher will once again school the student. Nick Saban wins another Alabama national championship.
This is the first time that I can honestly say that all 4 teams I could see winning it. I can't say I've said that in the past playoffs, but this year I feel confident saying that.
I would say that, but I can't because I just said Alabama was going to win it. So I can't confidently say that.
I'm not saying I disagree, though. I could see them winning it.
I agree with you. I think we have 4 capable championship teams.
Zach Lofton swatted by Metu. Jonah Matthews for the Trojans to the basket. And we're tied with a minute to go in the championship game.
Now, a great play by USC there defensively. Shocking, though, because I'm not sure if USC had possession of that basketball, that when that horn went off, that the play was not stopped because of a shot clock violation.
City and Deer recovers. 10 to shoot. A.J. Harris. Endear pumps. 3 on the way. USC the rebound. Jordan McLaughlin.
If you're Andy Enfield, now you want a timeout. You want to be able to waste as much time as you can and get your set how you want to go about trying to win this game here in regulation.
Timeout USC, knotted at 72. There is a 3-second differential, so 19 on the shot clock. 22 and a half remaining as the Trojans use their full timeout here. Leaves them with a 30, while New Mexico State has a 30 and a full remaining. On a tie-up, it belongs to USC.
I want to see this with real sound and see if that shot clock went off before USC had possession. USC does not have possession of that basketball. It should have been their ball, but called and not being able to get that layup because they don't have possession, which means it should have been a violation. Take the ball out on the side, and then they have to actually play against a set defense of New Mexico State in comparison to them having the run-out layup on that play. That's a big no call there in this game.
So a tie game. Here's what's at stake. There's the championship for the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, the trophy. In the 9th annual event in Honolulu, hosted by the University of Hawaii. If you're USC, does it go to Benny Boatwright?
Absolutely. I believe that you put Jordan McLaughlin and Benny Boatwright in the pick and roll. Allow your senior leader, Jordan McLaughlin, to make the play. Now, if McLaughlin has the opportunity to attack the basket, I'm very comfortable with the ball in his hands. I know I've talked about him needing to be a setup guy more so in this game for them to be successful, but I love him scoring in big moments. He makes the play, whether it's going to the rim, scoring on his own, or getting the ball to Boatwright.
A championship on the line. SC won the inaugural event and trying to bring home their second trophy. 5 to shoot for McLaughlin. Boatwright, deep three. Hit it! .33 for Benny Boatwright. 6 threes. And USC up 3. They'll check the clock to see if more time should be put on it.
And a great job by Andy Enfield designing the double screen. And so defensively, you have to determine whether we're going to try to take away Metu at the basket or we're going to get the ball to Benny Boatwright for the 3. They probably should have given Benny 4 for that one for as far away as he shot that basketball.
He made that one for Maui.
But give Jordan McLaughlin, the point guard, credit for making the right decision as to where the basketball needed to go. And more importantly, stretching out the defense to give Boatwright enough opportunity to get open for that shot.
So they are putting more time back on the clock.
I believe they had it right at 4.1.
Tony Padilla working with Keith Kimball, Bart Lennox, our officials for this championship game. And they are going to make it 4.2. So 4.2 for New Mexico State. And they still have a timeout. Trojans by 3. If you're Chris Jans, you're getting it to Lofton?
Well, I have a timeout. So honestly, what I would do if I'm Coach Jans, I wanted to get the ball across half court, call another timeout, so I can run something at the 28-foot mark in comparison to having to run a full court play.
If you're USC, do you foul?
If you're USC with a 3-point lead, you absolutely foul, but you have to make sure.
Through the hands of Chua, ball loose and a foul. They tried the home run pass. Fouls on Chua, his 3rd, and SC at the line, a chance to put it away.
We talked about options. This would not have been one. And I understand what Coach Jans was trying to do. He was trying to get the ball to Chua and allow him to make the play, finding one of his shooters on the 3. But I think with still a timeout remaining, it's much easier to get the ball across half court and take it out at 28-foot and then design a play to try to get a 3.
One more for Metu, but now a 4-point game, and USC takes timeout. 2 seconds to go in this championship game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. And Benny Boatwright has come up enormous for the Trojans in this championship game. 33 points, 7 rebounds, 6 threes, and he is our player of the game, brought to you by Advocate. Now, are we going to keep our tradition here for the Diamond Head Classic and give away Chunky the Pineapple to the MVP of the championship game? As we gave it to Buddy Hield a couple of years ago.
If Benny wants Chunky, I think Benny should have the right to take Chunky. Now, can he get it through, the agricultural laws coming in and out of Hawaii? He might have to sign some paperwork to be able to get Chunky on the plane back to L.A.
And Boatwright puts it, rather Metsu puts it in. 2 seconds remaining. Intercepted, Shaquan Aaron, that'll do it. And the USC Trojans have won the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, and they are the first repeat winners in the history of this event. They won the inaugural championship in 2009, and now in 2017, Benny Boatwright with a career-high 33 leads USC to the title over New Mexico State in a thrilling championship game. The Trojans now 9-4 after losing to Princeton in their final game prior to coming over to Honolulu and the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. They trailed early in each of the 3 games en route to the title, as in their opener against Akron on Friday, USC trailed by as many as 9 late in the first half. Then they were trailing at the half before erupting in the second half. The same pattern followed them against Middle Tennessee, down by 9 early in the second half before coming back to win it. And then here in this one, it was New Mexico State jumping out to a 7-0 lead. The Aggies led by as many as 6 in the second half before USC came back and Benny Boatwright put the Trojans on his back. And a career best 33 points for the junior, leading USC to the championship, and is again our player of the game in a 77-72 thrilling championship game in Honolulu. So Andy Enfield now 9-4 for the Trojans, getting ready as they will open up Pac-12 play against Washington Friday in Los Angeles at the Galen Center. While New Mexico State, tough loss for them. They played great in this tournament all week with wins over Davidson and then number 6 Miami handing the Canes their first loss of the year, as Miami went into that matchup with New Mexico State 10-0. And it was the first top 10 win for New Mexico State since 1990 when they knocked off number 7 UNLV. But it was USC holding off New Mexico State in this championship game. We'll send it over to Corey Alexander with the MVP, Benny Boatwright.
Benny, 33 points for you tonight. I mean, you had to be excited about being able to play in this game, especially after having missing part of the first game with being ejected with the flagrant 2 foul.
Right. First and foremost, I just want to thank God, for allowing us to come together this Christmas, and just happy we came out with the W.
And what got into you tonight? Shooting the ball, 6 3-pointers. We know that's part of your game, but you were extra aggressive on the offensive end of the floor.
Everybody around me just believes in me, and this gives me a lot of confidence, so I attribute it to them.
And you had to miss a couple games, of course. As your teammates come over and excitement, you had to miss a couple games before coming to the island. How important was it for you to get healthy and be able to play here on this stage?
It was big, just getting the rhythm and coming out there and flowing with the guys.
All right, Benny Boatwright, congratulations on a huge performance here at the Diamond Head Classic and also being an MVP. All right.
All right, Corey. So Benny Boatwright, 6 threes, 33 points, a career best, 7 rebounds, leading Andy Enfield Trojans to the championship. While New Mexico State sees their 5-game winning streak come to a close, they are now 11-3. They have one more tune-up before they enter the WAC, as they will play UC Irvine coming up on Thursday. And here is everybody coming over. Just Chimezi Metu trying to leapfrog there, Benny Boatwright. But a terrific championship game. This is what you expect in a title tilt between 2 teams with a lot on the line in this one, playing at such a high level. And USC, we could see it, Corey, they're starting to put it together now.
They really are. And when you think about the way that they came back, you even mentioned it, Roxy, they were down 8 points. And you talked about their comebacks last year, and this is the way that these guys like to play. They get off to a slow start, but yet when they get it going and lock in on both ends of the floor, this is an extremely difficult team to be able to defend.
And for New Mexico State, this is a team that I know people don't hear a lot from them because they're in the WAC, but this is a dangerous team, and they have the ability to really pose problems for teams in March.
They really do. I believe that New Mexico State will be a team that we will watch in the NCAA tournament this year. And ladies and gentlemen, remember the name, Jamario Jones. He is a special young talent.
And congratulations to Benny Boatwright and the USC Trojans, champions of the 2017 Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic and the first two-time winners of this event. For Corey Alexander, Roxy Burns inviting you to stay tuned. Coming up on ESPNU in 20 minutes, it'll be the third place game from Honolulu.